Let loose, I said let loose. You're holding it together, baby. What's the use?
Hello, it's me, Miss Trish, and welcome to another episode of me sitting alone in my apartment in a wig, talking about other people in wigs, while my neighbors have a domestic. Let's talk about the elephants in the room. There are multiple. First of all, this wig stinks. I didn't have to tell you guys that, but I'm honest and vulnerable. And I tried to wash it 30 times and I'm still like, what is sticking to this? I'll move on from this topic quickly, but just wanted to help with, add some spice to this video. You can imagine that my head reeks while you watch this. The second thing, I have run out of outfits. I own 6 boy clothes, and what is this? What is this? I put on a tank top, and I just put whatever this is over it, and I'm like, that's kind of a serve. It kind of is. Maybe I haven't run out of outfits. I have. It's gonna get really dark really fast. I'm gonna be wearing, I was gonna say I'm gonna be wearing horrible things, but that's all I've done so far. So maybe this was another announcement that didn't need to be made. Okay, something terrible just happened. After I recorded that, the fire alarm went off, and I had to I should have just evacuated and not cared if my neighbors saw me running down the hallway dressed like this, but I was like, they're absolutely going to hate crime me if I walk out looking like this. So I had to de-drag, if you can call it that, run down, stand outside for 10 minutes, then come back in and redo all of this again. And while I was putting this on, it's Trixie Cosmetics something. It tastes so good. I don't know what Trixie's putting in this, but I haven't had dinner yet, but now I kind of feel like I have had dinner. Ladies, you've been keeping this from us. Anyway, now with that other event out of the way, we can just jump right into the recap. Selena is stirring shit post-mortem, and has that amazing mirror message where she's like, guess I got what I deserved. And Lucy takes that opportunity to immediately center herself, and she's like, yes, I also know what it's like to have people not like you. And I'm like, okay, this was kind of supposed to be Selena's moment, but if anyone did know what it's like to have people despise you and want you to leave, it is probably Miss LaDuca. So I guess I get where she's coming from, but I think the camera just cuts to everyone rolling their eyes because it's like deja vu. We know it's coming. And Lucy says the line, I'm so surprised I was in the bottom. Which, fair. I was too, but I feel at this point, she's catching on to her edit, and she knows, they're here to torture me. So she doesn't stay on this topic for long, but the camera's, rapidly, going between all the girls. It's, cutting around, who's gonna push Lucy. No one does. She's already kind of, I don't know. She's zen from being punished so much. She's reached, a new level of mental clarity. And then Lux, when she's explaining her little dissertation she gave on stage, she's like, I believed everything I said 110%, and I didn't mean it to come off as disrespectful and demeaning. And I was like, girl, you didn't mean for the disrespectful and demeaning things you said to come off as disrespectful and demeaning. I love that. That's the kind of gaslighting that I'm just yeah, Lux would be a good producer. I would love to see that. She is pushing buttons constantly. I really kind of felt at the beginning of the season, Mistress was the shit stirrer, but it's Lux. It's Lux. It's been Lux. Mistress is actually in her congenial era. I don't know what happened. And yeah, I just loved how Lucy's response to getting the critique that she's not unique. She's like, no, I think I am unique because I'm amazing at so many things, and that makes me unique. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't think that was the good answer, and I think that has just solidified that you will be continuing your psychological torment edit, and you probably will be going home. She goes home. And yeah, next we see the girls walking in for the next day, and immediately I'm struck that Lucy and Anitra have a cute handshake. What was that? Why don't we have a cute handshake, Anitra? I was like softening on Lucy, and I was kind of like feeling bad for her, feeling like she should be getting a better edit. But now I think she's a threat for me in my relationship with Anitra. So I think she got what she deserves, and it should get worse. Oops. But then Rue explains the mini challenge for this episode, which was really fun. It involves the queens answering questions like, who's the prettiest queen? And then everybody votes, and if your answer is in the majority, you get a point. So you kind of want to play the game and guess who you think's the most likely, even if it's not a very pleasant answer. Poor Lucy. And then like helping out with this mini challenge is Norvina, and she scares me. I did not, like, something's wrong. She's either like not in the studio and they like CGI'd her in, or she is like advanced AI and they just wanted to see if anyone would notice, but like she doesn't have a personality. She just repeats like Queen's catchphrases, kind of like Lux, except she does it with like the wrong intonation. Like I believe that Lux knows all the references, but when Norvina does it, she's like, bam, you go, girl. It's scary. It's scary. I don't think she would pass the Turing test. And also, like, whenever Ruth speaks to her, it's like she has a wake word, like a robot. He always has to go like, Norvina, like she's like a digital assistant. What's up with this girl? I don't know. But I was like hyper fixated on learning her lore. Because she's like apparently the president of like Anastasia Beverly Hills. Shouldn't the president be Anastasia Beverly Hills herself? I think Norvina's her daughter or something. I like how I just said I learned all her lore, but I immediately forgot it and know nothing about her, except that she frightens me. But for the mini challenge, I noticed a few things. First of all, when the question is like, who makes you laugh the hardest? Anitra votes Lucy. And she's the only one to vote Lucy, and so I was right to be threatened. Everything I know is crashing down in front of me. I'm upset. I feel sick. I think my tenure as a Lucerina is over. This lip gloss is so sticky. My hair is going inside of my mouth. Oop, I just ruined it. But yeah, I feel sick. There's something brewing there, something evil, and I gotta ensure the downfall of Lucy so that I can be Anitra's husband. I do respect Lucy for realizing that everybody hates her, and whenever there's like a mean question, like who's going home next, Lucy's like, I'm gonna say me because I know I'll get the point because everyone wants me to go home. That's kind of slay. That's kind of endearing. I feel like this was like humanizing for Lucy. This was a very humanizing episode for her overall. Too bad it's her last episode. But it was cute. It was cute. I liked her in that moment. I also love how Rue called Mistress Shady Harry and a thief. Me too, girl. Me too. I started my life of crime less than a month ago, and I haven't been able to stop since. So I totally get that. Oh, just kidding. There's one more thing. You know what I noticed? Nobody held up Anitra's sign for anything. Nothing. She's not the funniest. She's not whatever. But I guess they didn't ask who's the prettiest, who's the most empathetic, who's the most in love with Miss Trish. If they had asked like questions like that, I bet everyone would have been like, oh, Anitra, Anitra, Anitra. But they asked like questions where maybe you wouldn't want to be picked, and that's probably why nobody picked Anitra, and not for other reasons that would make me sad. But I noticed that, and I just thought I'd point it out. And yeah, I thought it was a really fun mini challenge, and of course Lucy wins. She gets another mini challenge win under her belt. That probably makes her like the queen with the most wins ever in the entire franchise. So you go, Miss Lucy LaDuca. This episode really is a love letter to her, to gaslight her into thinking that she wasn't mistreated. So after the mini challenge, Rue explains what the main challenge is for this week, and it is the makeover challenge featuring teachers. So the queens will be paired up with a teacher, they'll have to make them over, and they're usually judged, I think, on like family resemblance and just kind of like having chemistry with their partner. These challenges, I feel like, are usually like the Wild West. Like, you can justify sending anybody home that you want in this challenge because you can just say stuff like, you didn't have charisma with your partner, and that's kind of like subjective, and you can just say that and it can be edited to match that up. Or you can be like, you didn't have family resemblance because you had different shoes on, or you had different skin colors, which I feel like has happened a lot in the past, where it'll just be like two queens that like just physically look very different, like without makeup or anything, and they're just like, I just didn't really buy that you guys were family. And I'm like, okay, Drag Race. Adopted families are a thing. I just feel like it's always the girls that look very physically different, where the judges are just like, unrelated to makeup, but I just don't buy that you guys could ever be family. Yikes. So then the teachers come in, and I think it's funny how you can always kind of tell that I feel like production has in mind like a pairing when they're picking these teachers, you know, whether that's based on like personality, aesthetics, like their background. I feel like as they're wheeling them out, they're like, okay, that's Mistress, that, you know. Lucy's girl that she eventually gets paired with, I buy that that could be her mom. I feel like they have a similar manic energy, and they also just like look so similar to me. But I also sometimes think I'm face blind, so I don't know if that is actually true. But anyway, since Lucy won the mini challenge, she is actually the one that gets to decide the pairings between like the queen and the teacher. She picks Ms. Wallace, who I said famously looks like her mom, and then pairs all the other girls up in like a pretty congenial way. And then like, I think Lux picks up on the fact that Lucy kind of wants to screw her over. I don't know if this is like true, but I mean, Lux raises the point that like there's only one girl there with like one of the teachers with darker skin, and Lucy does not pair Lux up with, I think her name is Mrs. Marchbanks. Could have been shady, maybe not. I believe it's shady. And you know what? Good on Lucy. Like, you know, if Lux was in the same position, she'd be pulling that. So like, go off. I support it 100%. So then the girls start talking to their teachers and meeting them, and Anitra cracked me up when she's like, oh my god, like that's so weird that we have the exact same background and you look like you could be my daughter. I was like, yeah, like that is weird. I wonder like how many people they had to screen before they were like, this one's the Anitra girl. It just always makes me laugh. And Lucy like is describing her drag aesthetic to Ms. Wallace, and she describes herself as like, the LaDuca dynasty is very voluptuous. And I'm like, I don't know if that's what I think of. Maybe like the memes have rotted my brain, but I just think of like the vampire look and just like let loose. I don't really think voluptuous. But with all that said, Lucy's mannerisms with her teacher are so cute. Like, I genuinely believe that they are like becoming fast friends. Lucy is a very like kind and patient teacher. I really buy that she has like a nice connection with Ms. Wallace, and it was like really nice to kind of hear their conversations. I think Lucy had good questions, and really just did a good job making Ms. Wallace feel comfortable. So I appreciated that. Credit where credit is due. And then Mistress was also really sweet with her teacher. She always intersperses some shade, but like, I also bought that she had a really genuine connection with her teacher, who was named Ms. Tang, I believe. And if you look on like Twitter and Instagram and all that, Mistress is like still supporting Ms. Tang and like buying stuff for her classroom. So I thought that was really sweet. And you should go buy things for Ms. Tang because she deserves it. Yeah. And what else? Oh, I laughed when Mistress was like threatening Ms. Tang to shave her eyebrows. That's iconic. I absolutely would never shave my eyebrows for a drag race challenge. That's a lie. I would do anything for a drag race challenge. Rue, I'll cry. I can do that. But the audacity of Mistress just never ceases to make me laugh. Also, Mrs. Marchbanks. That seems unfair that she was picked as like a teacher. She is like already a diva. I would love a season of like people they brought in for the makeover challenges that like could be drag queens in their own right. Mrs. Marchbanks would destroy that all-star season. What? She was incredible. And then when she's talking to Sasha and they're talking about padding, that was hilarious. How Sasha's like, well, this isn't really for me because Sasha already has a gigantic, voluptuous butt. Take notes, Lucy. But then Sasha tries on the padding anyway, and she looks like a cryptid. Her booty is so big, she looks like a cryptid. It was the most scary thing I've ever seen, except for Norvina. But I also think that she should pad more because it's camp. But yeah, loved that. And then Lux finally, like, I think this was probably the edit. And I will try, like, and I'm just making that comment because I don't actually think Lux was like horrible, but the edit makes it look like she's pretty dismissive of her teacher, pretty like, I won't say rude, but she just doesn't seem like she really wants to engage with Ms. Reyes, and I think it's just to like add drama to the storyline, and it worked for me because I was like, don't be mean to that teacher. You're the worst. I want you to go home. I also love this moment where like the teachers are being asked like, oh, what do you think the kids are gonna like think about you when they see you on TV? And like all the teachers are very like, oh, well, I just want them to know that they can like be themselves and love is love. And I'm like, no, what they're gonna remember is you twerking, you admitting that you wear like a 32 double H bra size. Like, that's what they're gonna remember. And I think that is a beautiful, magical blend of knowledge for these children to absorb. I wouldn't want it any other way. But it's just funny that you think the kids are gonna take away these lessons rather than what they're actually gonna take away. And then Rue has the audacity to walk up to Miss LaDuca and be like, so, when all the girls told you that they hate you and want you to go home, what did that do to your psyche? You know he's pressed, and he's like, he is flat out asking Lucy, we have been trying so hard to get you to snap. What will it take? Like, you are not reacting the way I expect. How do we break that psyche? And then Lucy answering in the most unaware way, saying like, well, I didn't really give a shit. I was like, you actually gave the most shit. And it's icon behavior to just completely ignore history, logic, and facts and just say what you want. So Rue got outmaneuvered by Miss LaDuca yet again. She will never break, she will never crack until I psychologically torment her to give up Anitra. So once all the girls have had a chance to meet their teachers, Rue announces that in addition to having like walk the runway, the teachers have to do a lip sync. If I was in that position, I would have run out. I would have run out crying. I had like a visceral anxiety response for them, and I was nowhere near that. So very scary, but I did appreciate how all the girls were really taking care of the teachers, and I think Lucy in particular was like really supportive, trying to teach Ms. Wallace moves and like guiding her and quizzing her. It was, I feel like Lucy would be a good teacher. And then Anitra asks her teacher, Mrs. Mahoney, if she can duck walk. Girl, no, this kindergarten teacher cannot duck walk. Most people can. I try to duck walk almost daily so I can be closer to you, and my knees scream out in pain, and I am just crawling on the floor crying. So no, Mrs. Mahoney cannot duck walk. And Anitra like fake cries in a confessional about this, and it was so real. Like, it looked like she was actually crying. She should use that more. If you're a good fake crier, I would be crying on every episode of RuPaul's Drag Race because he would be gobbling that up. So use that more, Anitra. Time travel and use my advice, which you don't need. Okay? And then the bad edit for Lux and Miss Reyes kind of continues. I don't really like it because, I don't know if I'm like verbalizing it correctly, but I feel like Miss Reyes was kind of like the casualty. Like, they kind of edited her to look silly and not like a good dancer, and it wasn't like fun. It was like, uh-oh, this woman is gonna like ruin Lux's streak and like we should hate her. I don't think the edit was actually that intense, but I could absolutely see some fans getting like up in arms, and I just never feel like the guest should be the casualty. Like, if you're gonna stir up fake drama, it should just be like, Lux is really disrespectful and dismissive of the teacher, not like, oh, the teacher's a bad dancer and hurting Lux. I don't know. Maybe I'm like looking too much into it, but I feel like a lot of the other teachers got like celebrated, but then Miss Reyes, not so much. And then, yeah, the girlies are getting ready in the workroom, and Anitra's like trying to connect with Mrs. Mahoney, and she's saying like all these really like storyline bait things, and Mrs. Mahoney's just like getting her makeup done. She's like, yeah, okay, yep. And Anitra's like, we're making a storyline whether you like it or not. And she starts just like, she's like, okay, if you're not gonna give me anything, I'm just gonna trauma dump on you, and you're just gonna sit there and be my little vessel to get points. And she talks about like, kids don't come out of the womb hateful. Untrue. Look at me. I was a 12-pound baby. That's hateful to my mother. She tells me all the time that I ruined her body. And yeah, some kids come out of the womb hateful, but I get what you were saying. And then they cut, like, after Anitra, who I think was like genuinely trying to connect with her teacher. The Lux storyline is like Mrs. Reyes looks like she's fed up not being asked any questions, so she just starts like taking over the narration role, and Lux is just like, shh, quiet lady, I'm trying to do things. But then Mrs. Reyes just like, she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna trauma dump now. Mrs. Reyes and Anitra should have been together because they clearly wanted to make these storylines work. But I kind of feel like Mrs. Reyes saved Lux, because if she didn't have someone as forceful, like, the edit probably would have been even worse. And what else? Oh my god, Lucy won't let these mini challenge wins go. She needs to make merch. Also, all the queens need to make better merch. I'm gonna say something really brave, and I don't want Anitra to hear, but I wanted to buy her merch, and I just feel like she didn't have great merch. She needs to get that Walk That Duck going, on more than just a button. I bought it anyway because I'm a horrible simp who has no boundaries, but like, yeah, it's not as fashionable as I wanted. Sorry, Anitra. But yeah, Lucy, merchandise that 3 mini challenge wins, 4 mini challenge wins? I don't know. Go ahead and do that. And then, oh my god, they're teaching these teachers like gay lingo, and they're like, that's what a serve means, and like, that's what it means to gather the girls and read the girls. And I'm like, no, we should, like, if we're gonna teach them the lingo, let's teach them the lingo. Like, Asia Azul, do you know what poppers are, honey? Or like, Mrs. Mahoney, can you explain to the class what a bussy is? Like, let's not, you know what, don't do that. Their classes are probably watching this. We don't need kindergartners being like, Mrs. Mahoney, what's a bussy? Should I try poppers? Yes, you should. Don't. And also, Sasha has this read of poor Miss Asia Azul, who is getting it, or Mrs. Reyes, drag name Asia Azul, saying that her head looks like those little statues on Easter Island. That was wicked. But then the hate crime was the cameraman who was like, oh, that was a funny comment, and then gets like 2 inches away from Mrs. Reyes's face to get the angle that makes it look the most like an Easter Island head. This show is rotten to its core, and I cannot stop gobbling it up. Um, and I have to balance that with feeling bad for these people sometimes, but also wanting it to be as terrible as possible for them. Hello. I was getting kind of stressed, so I put this rat in my breasts, and I think that's helping. So the girls, the challenge is finally here. Rue walks out, looks stunning as always, but Michelle kind of stole the show tonight, right? Like, she looked like a ballet teacher, and I loved her in short hair. Michelle's buff. I would like to see those arms more. Michelle, aging beautifully. And then the guest judge is Haley Kiyoko. Kiyoko. And I had no idea what that was, and I was at a watch party, and I was like expressing that, and I got attacked because apparently she's lesbian Jesus, and I was being disrespectful to a holy figure, and I apologize for that, girls. I get it after hearing her little song. So love Haley, and yeah, glad she's here. And yeah, for the runway, since it is the makeover challenge, the category is just like family resemblance, and the girls are judged on how much they match their teacher, both in terms of like aesthetics and also like charisma. Are their personalities kind of in sync, stuff like that. Starting with Sasha and her teacher, Ferocity Colby. Love that name. They looked so good. Seeing Sasha in padding was camp. I thought it was funny that I think Sasha was like the only one that used the padding, and I think the padding was like the sponsor for this episode. So Sasha's really putting in the work. And I don't know. I don't have any critiques about them. I thought they were really good. And Rue's joke, you know how the judges always do those corny jokes? Rue's actually made me laugh. He was like, she graduated with a BFA, a big fat ass. Juicy. I have a Bachelor of Science, so what is that for me? Big shitter. Nope. I mean, anyway, I think I'm the scat queen now. Oh God. And then Lucy and her teacher, Lala LaDuca, are next. Love the name, incredible. And it jump scared me because they start with the camera zoomed down on Lala, and I was like, oh, Lucy looks good. And then they move it a little bit, and it's just Lucy again. I thought Lala was Lucy. They looked identical. And it was really scary. And I thought their mannerisms were also identical. I don't think Lucy has like the best runway walk. So like, that's the only place I can be like a little nitpicky, but like, I thought they resembled each other. So really no critiques there either. Next, our mistress and her teacher, Madame Thang. I loved it. I thought like mistress has a pretty unique like mug, and she stamped that onto Madame Thang pretty well. But I had a problem with Madame Thang's like dress, because so Madame Thang was in like a black dress, and Mistress was in like a it was like white or maybe like a little bluish dress, and Mistress looked good because the lighting kind of like you could still see all the shapes on the dress, and she had like a good figure. But for Madame Thang, she was wearing like all black, and she had this big black boa, and I feel like it just swallowed her up. Like you couldn't see any of her curves, you couldn't see like her body. She just kind of looked like a big amorphous like something, which isn't shade to Madame Thang. I think that's just how sometimes it shakes out when you wear like black on the runway. So I give Mistress points because I like that she didn't go so matchy. But I feel like Madame Thang, from like the mug looked good for her, but the rest I could take it or leave it. I would have liked to see like what it would look like if they had swapped boas, because then you would have been able to see like the figure a bit more for Madame Thang, and that could be like a fun like compare contrast moment. I'm not a fashionista, so maybe that would have looked terrible. But yeah, I don't know. I just had some trouble seeing like Madame Thang against the stage lights. And then I laughed out loud when I saw Asia Azul and Lux. Girl, they didn't look anything alike, and that's not even like a, oh, you know, they have different skin tones. Poor Lux, like that must have been hard. I was like, girl, what? You didn't even try. Like Asia Azul is in this blue dress with like pink liner, and Lux is in this completely pink dress with like a little gold belt, and she has just like the tiniest bit of blue eyeshadow, and she's like, look, blue and blue, we're matching, we're a family. No, you are not. Poor Asia Azul also looked absolutely the most terrified. Go back and watch it. It's like, it's a little cringe, but also pretty funny. Asia Azul just like keeps looking to Lux for direction. I think she's like trying to, I think Asia Azul understood the assignment and is trying to be like, I want our mannerisms to be in sync. I'll follow your lead. But Lux is just like not seeing her at all, and she's just like, get out of the way, I'm doing my thing, like I'm modeling, get out of the way, Asia Azul. So like I feel like Lux completely steamrolled over her, and their mannerisms made like an already difficult sell even worse. So I didn't love that babe. And finally, Anitra and Electra. Did they look good? Sure. But something about the height difference in the teacher's makeup made her look like she was 5 years old. There's a child on the stage. Someone come get your lost child. Who is that? This is a child that is teaching other children. I felt like we were on Toddlers and Tiaras. It didn't feel appropriate for me to look at her. I couldn't tell you what it is, because like as Mrs. Mahoney, I didn't get that vibe, but somehow I think she looked so much like Anitra standing next to Anitra, who was like much taller. It was just like, don't talk to me or my son ever again. She looked like a baby. But with that said, like, I feel like the costumes had the right blend of like matchy with like a little bit different. They had good synergy. Mrs. Mahoney seemed like one of the most comfortable teachers, and yeah, I think she was like able to synergize with Anitra, and they were definitely, I think, one of the standouts with like Sasha and Ferocity, I would say. So on to the judges' critiques. I don't think they were like crazy this time around, so I don't have too much to say. Sasha and Ferocity, I think, got all around positive critiques. Ross like looks at Sasha and Ferocity, is like, wow, that padding makes it look like you came out of the same womb. Ross, if someone came out of the womb with an ass that fat, it would destroy your mother, much like I did. So you better hope your baby's not padded to the gods. And yeah, I don't know. Nothing else to really say for Sasha and Ferocity, except that Ferocity, again, should just come back on as a drag queen season 16. She could win. Lucy and Lala. Actually, in Sasha and Ferocity's critiques, Michelle said something like, family resemblance is sometimes more than just looking like each other, and you guys nailed it. And I was like, I think that's absolutely a critique that they're going to use to nail someone further down the line, and that person is Lucy. They're like, yeah, like you looked alike, but your mannerisms, I just didn't buy that you were family. Guess what, Michelle? Sometimes families hate each other. I bought it. It looked like they hated each other. No, that's not true. But like, they just didn't have as much charisma as the other people, I guess. And I guess I kind of saw that, but I just felt bad because I felt like Lucy had such a good rapport with her teacher, especially in the workroom. And they looked so similar and so good. I just, like, again, it's like the Wild West of challenges where they can really just say whoever, and like you can see it. Like I get what they're saying, but just like I don't know if it'd be my pick. And there are a few other things. I just couldn't stop laughing where like Lucy's face when she thought she was getting positive critiques and then it turned negative looked like that one Jasmine Masters gif where she's like, ah. Like I can't even do it. Insert it here if you're talented enough. I'm not. So that made me laugh. And then Ross's critique, like, again, in trying to get people like they clearly wanted Lucy to leave. So they're like, what critique can we give her? And Ross was like, oh, you guys had different shoes, and that kind of ruined the family resemblance. Okay. When I heard that critique, I went through every other runway and looked at the shoes, and I was like, Sasha and Ferocity had completely different shoes. Mistress and Madam had completely different shoes and then wore a long gown to cover that fact, and they stated that. Lux and Azul had completely different shoes. Anitra and Electra had completely different shoes. Ross, sometimes a kindergartner won't know how to walk, or not a kindergartner, a kindergarten teacher won't know how to walk in like a 10-inch heel. And people have different feet sizes, so you can't always get like the ideal shoe. That was a wild critique. I don't know why it was applied to just Lucy. It was dumb. Ross has been giving out a lot of dumb critiques. Where's Carson? So yeah, Lucy kind of got it. I like expected her to get it in the sense that like it's clear they want her out, but I don't know. I didn't buy their critiques. I didn't like them. Mistress and Madame thing, they had resemblance in chemistry. You could genuinely tell they had a connection, and I don't know. They didn't really mention the washed out thing that I said, so maybe it like wasn't like that in person, but I just think it would have been nicer if you could see more of like Madame Thing's figure, whatever. And then let's see, Lux and Asia. Yeah, they got kind of torn to shreds like they deserved. And I thought Asia was so iconic for not knowing who Jennifer Coolidge is while looking exactly like Jennifer Coolidge. And Asia mentions, she's like, ooh, I feel like my tia Lala LaDuca of the LaDuca dynasty. You're related to Lala LaDuca? That's fierce. And this was further confirmed. Conspiracy theory. Haley mentions that Asia Azul later in the performance had let loose and it was endearing. She let loose. Very interesting choice of words. I think that the real family resemblance is between Asia Azul and Miss Lala LaDuca. There's a history there. But yeah, agree. There was no family resemblance between Lux and Asia Azul. And they are absolutely going to be in the bottom and deserve it. And then finally, Anitra and Electra. I loved it. And the only reason I have that hesitation is just because, like, this is a child. Someone lost their child. Come pick up your child. But, like, objectively, I think they did the family resemblance while still being a little different. The mannerisms, they had, like, good synergy, all that. So, yeah, good critiques for Anitra, too. Ross says something about, like, arm foreskin. Ross, don't make the kindergartner say arm foreskin. I'm so tired. Where's Carson? But yeah. So before we find out who the winner is, we get the teacher lip sync, which, like, I was so relieved that it was edited in a way to celebrate these teachers. And by that, I mean there was a cut like every 0.5 seconds. You don't even have a chance to like hone in on anybody and be like, ooh, they're flopping. It was like, no, we're gonna cut to all the times where they were doing something cute, and we're not gonna let you see what I would assume was a majorly awkward performance. And Mrs. Marchbanks, wow, she was actually killing it. They cut to her a lot because she was just like slaying so hard. And yeah, I think again, if your kids are gonna remember anything, Electra, it's you shaking your ass on the main stage. But I'm sure maybe they'll learn something about love too. But like, the editors were nice to the teachers, and this was very wholesome, and I loved watching it. So I feel like I felt relieved that they didn't choose violence in this instance. So finally, we get the winners and losers. Winner, say it, Anitra. Of course it's Anitra. She's a threat to Sasha. She's a threat to me. She is a galactic threat, and she deserves another win. The teachers also win a trip to Palm Springs. Rue, just say you hate these girls. Send them somewhere else. Don't play games like this. That's so passive-aggressive and rude. Don't send the teachers to Palm Springs. And then the bottom, Lux and Lucy, of course. They have a storyline together, and I think they both... well, Lux flopped. I think Lucy could have been interchangeable with Mistress. I just think, and you know, it again depends on how you view this challenge. I feel like aesthetically Lucy was better. Yeah, Madame Thang was washed out. It was hard to see her. I got the family resemblance from like their personalities, but otherwise I didn't really like how they were dressed. And if you count the workroom stuff, I feel like Lucy just had such like an endearing and wholesome time with her teacher that I don't know, I was just disappointed to see her in the bottom. But it makes sense for the top four. I definitely think they won, so Lucy is in the bottom. Now for the lip sync, we get Haley's iconic For the Girls, and I think we all know what's about to happen between a Miss LaDuca and Lux Noir London lip sync. Lucy just isn't the best lip syncer, honestly. And in terms of like athleticism, she got eaten alive by Lux. But I also feel like Lux, I don't know how to describe it without sounding hateful, but I just, again, feel like Lux doesn't always like connect with the song, and she just has like this set of moves that we've seen before that she uses in every lip sync. And I feel like she's missing that aspect of like thinking about like what song it is, what it means to her, and like doing things at certain times. I think she's just kind of like, I'm gonna do a split here, and now I'm gonna crawl across the stage, and now I'm gonna like jump up and down. Like, she knows these like fun athletic feats she can do and like these sleigh moves, and she just uses them all like rapid fire. I don't know. And she also like didn't know the words for quite a few times. So despite Lucy, I feel, serving not a good lip sync, I was like, honestly, if they wanted to, they could also send Lux home, because I don't know, I don't think she knew the words. I think if they had done that, people would have burned down World of Wonder HQ, because I feel like that's like a level of nitpicky nuance that like is maybe over the top. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super impressed with Lux's lip sync either. But I will say, I think she beat Miss Lucy. Also, Lucy, she does that move where you just like slam down on your knees, like when you can't do like a death drop or something. If I did that, I would shatter both my knees, rip my ACLs, tear my meniscus, and crash through the 7 floors of my apartment building. How are people doing that? I guess we'll check in with her in 5 years and see how her knees are doing, but oh my god. But yeah, Lux wins. And I love when she's walking by Lucy, she's like, kisses, love you, girl. I was like, not now, this isn't the time. And yeah, Lucy, goodbye. Sashay away. I liked her exit line. What was it? It was like, I'm not just a great set of boobs, I was also a great set of legs. Funny. Miss LaDuca has some funny moments. And I actually really appreciated her candor when she was leaving. It was like, she was really raw. She was just like, I am trying to work through these feelings of like being mad that these other girls get to experience like this thing that I want so badly, and she just lets loose that she feels slighted. And honestly, like, while I'm not a crazy like Lucy stan, I'm like, she should have won every challenge. Like, I absolutely think she got robbed in a lot of ways, and she got a pretty cruel edit. So like, I don't know, I feel like you could really see it hitting her in that moment, and I kind of appreciated, again, like, I feel like this was a very humanizing episode for Lucy, and it made her like endearing in a lot of ways. So I don't think it makes up for everything they put her through, but it was a good send-off for her. And oh my god, I don't usually comment on like the preview of the next episode, but I scream laughed when they revealed that they would be doing the season 15 remix of Blame It on the Edit, and they had just sent Lucy home. Lucy invented Blame It on the Edit. Lucy would have thrived in Blame It on the Edit. Like, that is the final and most brutal psychic attack they have unleashed on Lucy LaDuca. And I just don't think she will ever know peace. And I think Rue is happy about that. So, goodbye, Lucy LaDuca. We have our top 4. If I feel like it's the top 4 that basically everyone imagined. Maybe throw a twin in there if you're delusional, but this was the top 4 I thought it would be. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it shakes out. If you enjoyed, leave me a like, leave me a comment calling me a mean name. Engagement is engagement. And I have no one to talk to, so, you know.